Have you ever met a mom that you just knew always wanted to be a mother? One who her role fit in a very instinctive way? Well, allow me to introduce you to one. Yes, those are TV moms. You might have expected me to reference myself. However, I've learned very few things in parenting are truly instinctive. They instead are mirrored, learned, and at best planned. See, we mirror the things that we learn from our parents and those around us by the examples that they set, or we take time to invest on how we feel we would best want to be parents. So today, this is my story of how I planned, failed, and started planning again. See, if you were to ask anyone who knows me, they would quickly tell you how I love being a mom. And I do. It wasn't uncommon for me as a child to pack extra snacks in my lunch for friends, to make sure I knew where everyone was when we were out during my college years, or when it came time to choose careers, to make sure I had the opportunity to be in front of children. So when I found out we were expecting, I was immediately excited, beyond getting over the irony that I found out on Father's Day. When our daughter arrived, she was the joy of our lives. We wanted to capture every milestone, and I wanted to make as many memories as possible. So I decorate every birthday, and making cookies on Christmas Eve is a must, even when I started that tradition before she could truly participate. And when we had our second 3 years ago, I felt like I needed to up my memory-making muscle because there were two. So that meant movie nights and a lot of other fun things. But what about those other times? See, those things I mentioned are just moments. They're great for Instagram, they're great for posts, for likes, for comments. But what do you do in the middle and after those other things? For me, the times that happened as my daughter got a little older, when she wasn't as sweet and a little more sassy, around age 5. She started to develop her own personality. She can be a lot like me. She can be stubborn. You may catch her rolling her eyes, and her attitude may need an adjustment from time to time. But she's also loving, caring, gives the best hugs, and loves being around her family. Our commonalities will either make us bust out in the Thriller dance when we hear Michael, or ride to school silently because we disagreed over an outfit. Those same similarities bring us together, but sometimes cause a little friction. Friction when we didn't understand where the other one was coming from. Friction when I felt tired and overwhelmed. See, I'm not just a mother. I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm an employee, a daughter, a friend, and we realize I'm parenting 2 children in completely different life stages. If you couldn't tell by the picture, my children are exactly 7.5 years apart. So while our oldest is navigating friendships, finishing elementary school, grades, double digits now, our youngest, we want him to just understand it's not the best idea to jump off the couch head first. So you can guess, my house can get a little crazy, and at moments we all may not feel heard. And that was when I started to notice that in those moments, my daughter could take some of the things I was saying out of context. So me telling her that I didn't like what she was doing would be interpreted as I didn't like her. And then as a result, she'd shut down. Or when I had to repeat myself one too many times, I became frustrated. We each had our own set of triggers. And I wish I could tell you that when I was triggered, that the results were always pretty. But that type of dishonesty doesn't help you, and it definitely doesn't help me. Because as adults, sometimes we have to face those uncomfortable and ugly truths. So in those moments that I was triggered, I may overreact. And quite honestly, at times I would yell. But the yelling wasn't the worst. It was the mom guilt that would creep in and make me question the way I was parenting and the job I was doing as her mother. You see, we don't talk about that enough. The burdens we put on ourselves, those unspoken expectations that we have as moms to make sure we're raising the perfect child. Make sure we're not being too hard, but not being too soft. To have fun, but teach them lessons. It becomes a balancing act that's relentless, all while we are trying to be like them. But we are not TV moms. Yet we spend time mimicking the things that we saw on our favorite sitcom and TV show growing up, reaching for edited perfection in the midst of our unscripted and messy lives. See, while I was planning donut trips and PJs and vacations, I realized that I felt like I was still missing it. So one night, while cleaning up my daughter's room and taking some things back, I went to her bedroom, put some things on her desk, and on her desk were her normal things, her latest craft, some pens, a notebook, because she likes to write stories about lively characters and beautiful places. But on this night, there were no magical places. I simply read the words, "I'm scared of my mom sometimes." Yes, I'm scared of my mom sometimes. I didn't read beyond that. I didn't need to know more because that hit me like a brick, and I froze right where I stood. In that moment, my daughter was in her bed, but not asleep, had realized that more than likely I had read her written confession. She asked me, did we need to talk? I made up something quickly and exited the room. Because how do you process that? What do you do with those words? That your child is scared of you. Hopefully that sometimes would have made me feel better, but it didn't. I had to ask myself some very hard questions and reflect on the ways that I was parenting her. What was she learning by my actions? What would she mirror for her own children one day? Were we resolving issues, or was I searching to always be right? And so, in that moment, as hard as it was, I had to make a decision. And I chose that from that point, I wanted to parent in a way where I cultivated respect versus creating fear. Now, I knew it would not be easy, and I wasn't expecting to always get it right. And it was such a broad idea, I didn't really know how to go about it. See, fear, by definition, is an emotional state aroused by the trigger of either a threat that is real or unreal. This threat can be real, it can be imagined, and when that happens inside our body, it sets off alarm, anxiety, and a long list of physiological changes. And even though I'm not a scientist, I know that as a parent, when that's repeatedly triggered, especially off of a threat that's not real, that's unhealthy. On the other hand, respect gives us feelings of esteem and honor and admiration. This lovely higher place, the place I wanted our relationship to be in. So how would I go about cultivating respect and creating less fear? It was an idea that was broad and idealistic, but my solution was simply a pause. A pause that gave me a space to breathe, a space to reassess, to center, and most importantly, for me to check myself before I checked her. See, when I gave myself this pause, I could ask myself, what was my tone? Were my words critical? Were they sarcastic? When I asked, why did you do that? Was it dismissive, aggressive? Could I slow down, take a break, and simply say, can you tell me why you did that? Now, that second one is harder, takes a little more practice, but I can tell you that the results are going to be better. When I gifted myself a pause, I could ask myself, hey, is this the best timing? If we hit a bump in the road one morning on our way to school, I had to think about how would a full-blown argument result And what would change about the day that she had? Would it affect her? Would she be a little less confident? Would she be a little less cheery? So maybe a small adjustment and then coming back to the situation when she got home would be the best job and the best idea. See, as parents, we have to work to try to stay neutral no matter what emotion we're feeling, and that's something that's hard. But what I've realized that a lot of times those lessons that we're trying to teach them and how we're trying to protect them can get lost, and it results in misunderstandings and bruised feelings. So I started working on examining myself inside of that pause. And I noticed that when I gifted myself that pause, again, we weren't hitting those roads and those times of friction as often. And when we did, we would rebound a little bit quicker. I wasn't feeling the mom guilt as often, and it felt better. Our relationship was not perfect, but it made us progress in a better direction. And so I did finally ask my daughter about those words one night while driving in the car. We have our best conversations there, in between singing our favorite songs and making dance moves at stoplights. And so I asked her to explain what she meant. And she told me she wasn't in fact scared, but more so worried about how I would take it when she got in trouble repeatedly, if it would change the way I saw her. She didn't like my yelling, but she also didn't like disappointing me more. So I reassured her that no action, no choice would ever change how I saw her. She would always be our daughter, and she would always be loved unconditionally. And in that moment, she felt seen, she felt heard, and she felt safe. And again, our relationship is not perfect, but I was proud of the time and the moment and the progress we had started. Now you may ask, do I wish I didn't read those words? In the moment, I wish I could have rewinded that back, but now I'm grateful because it caused me to confront myself and ask questions. It caused me to make changes that I might not have made otherwise. And it showed me the power of my own pause. So in my story, I hope that in my transparency, you could find yourself, that you too can find your own pause. And this is not just for parents. This can be used when talking to a spouse, a friend, or even a stranger. What would happen if in each conversation we took a moment to check our tone, our timing, our delivery? How would that change the people that we're in relationship with, especially in moments of conflict? My challenge to you, for parents and non-parents alike, is that you come alongside me during my journey to cultivating more respect and creating less fear with the people that we're in relationship with, especially our children. Thank you.